Today we are reading Chapter 13 from These Are My People by Mildred T. Howard. Chapter 13, The Long Journey. Around the bend, after the boys came a troop of soldiers. Gladys felt a gasp of relief. They were Chinese nationalists. Before they could speak, the roar of approaching planes shattered the air. Gladys, the children, and the soldiers flung themselves under every available sheltering rock. They lay still, heads down and covered, but there was no rattle of gunfire. Instead, the planes droned on overhead and were gone. Gladys stood up and blew her whistle. Everyone scrambled up. The soldiers were mixed up with the children. Both were laughing and chattering. The soldiers opened their packs and began to pull out food, handing it to the hungry children. The soldiers produced food that had not been seen in Shanxi for years. The children shouted with delight at each offering. That night, the soldiers camped with Gladys and the children. The children sat around small fires, stuffing themselves with food. Even Gladys ate until she was full. When the troops moved on at dawn, the children waved a sad farewell. With full stomachs, the children began another day of walking. Without any urging, they began to sing. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Feed me till I want no more. The sweet food had revived the younger children. A sound sleep, even on the rocky ground, had given them enough rest to make them lively again. They climbed along happily, once again certain that they were on a holiday. But the older children, taking turns carrying the extra rolls of bedding, and the youngest children, began to tire quickly. Ninepence and Sualon were limping badly, and some of the older girls could hobble only a few hundred feet before resting. I want to pause here, girls and boys. Remember what we learned about foot binding. So these older girls most certainly had bound feet, and so walking these long distances were extremely hard for them. Gladys saw Les stop beside Ninepence and silently take the child she was carrying and place him on his own back. On the 12th day, they entered the last range of mountains. It had been several days since the soldiers had shared their food. Everyone was tired, even Gladys, tired of walking, tired of being hungry. The voices of the younger children began to echo in her head. I'm hungry, I'm tired, carry me, when will we stop? I'm thirsty. They toiled up another slope that seemed to stretch upward to the sky. When they reached the top, Gladys stopped. Look, she said, look. Below them lay terraced fields. Terraced fields in shades of green and gold. Through the fields wound a yellow coil of water. Ninepence shifted the tired child in her arms. The yellow river, she whispered. The words were repeated by the other children and sounded back down the line. The yellow river. There it is. As the line of tired children wound down toward the yellow water, a hymn of thanksgiving wavered in the mountain air. Stronger it sounded until the air trembled with the voices of 100 children. Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great Redeemer's praise, the glories of my God and King, the triumph of his grace. I actually know how that one goes. Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great Redeemer's praise, the glories of my God and King, the triumphs of his grace. Okay. Slowly, the line of singing children wound down into a village. No one moved in the village. No one came to meet them. Gladys held her hand up for quiet. The singing faltered, then stopped. Hello, Gladys called. Hello, echoed the children. Their voices trailed off into the strange silence. Even the air seemed still without movement. The village was deserted. Gladys almost cried. Then, remembering that she must be brave for the sake of the children, she said, "Search for food. Perhaps something is left." The children found only an old man sitting outside the house near the river. "Where is everybody?" Gladys asked. The old man pointed to the other side of the broad yellowish water. "There," he said. "Why didn't you go with them?" Gladys asked. "I'm not afraid of the Japanese," he scoffed. "I'm old. I'll die in my own home, not in some stranger's house." Gladys looked across the water, but could see no movement on the other side. "Where are the boats? We must get across the river." "No boats." The old man shook his head. "They took them all. No one comes here anymore." Stunned, Gladys led the children down to the river bank. The old man was right. Not one boat was on the river. Not one. For 3 days they stayed by the riverside. The children rested. Then they played along the riverbank. Troubles forgotten, they ran through the reeds, splashing water and laughing. Soon the little ones were busily building mud playhouses on the riverbank. Precious Bundle and Chang chased frogs, tadpoles, and minnows through the reeds, laughing and shouting as their prizes escaped. But Gladys was worried. 100 children couldn't sit on a riverbank and starve. She sent Les, Tay, and Liang back into the village to search for food again. They came back with a few pounds of moldy millet and a small bag of stale bread and shriveled wheat cakes that had been left in the deserted houses. The girls dumped everything into one pot and boiled it. Gladys carefully rationed scarce spoonfuls into the bowls of the younger children. She and the older children didn't eat. There wasn't enough for everyone. Gladys watched the river and prayed for God to send a boat. No one came. The children became restless. They were hungry. "When will the boat come, Awayday? When will we cross the river?" Gladys shook her head. She took out her Bible and gathered the children around her, reading while there was still light. Then they prayed together before the rolls of bedding were stretched out. At night the moon turned the yellow water to silver. Night birds fluttered, insects chirped, and the children slept. The third day the children came to her. "Why doesn't God part the water?" they asked. Gladys looked at them. "I'm not Moses," she answered. "But God is still God." "Then help me pray," Gladys whispered, tears running down her cheeks. Together the children knelt on the bank and prayed. They asked God to get them across the Yellow River as he had helped Moses across the Red Sea. When they had finished praying, they began to sing. "The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie. In pastures green he leadeth me, the quiet waters by." And I won't sing for you that time. Gladys listened with pleasure as the verses from the Scottish Psalter floated across the water. That day a patrol boat came. When the men heard the children singing, they stopped. "What are you doing?" the officer asked. "The Japanese planes fly over this river almost every day. They fire into the reeds and sometimes into the water itself. You're lucky that they haven't come this week." "Luck didn't have anything to do with it," Gladys said. "God did." The officer listened to her story as the children were taken over the river, group by group. When the last boatload reached the other shore, the officer shook his head. "May your God be with you," he said. "You will need his help." So in chapter 13, the Lord provides a way for the kids to cross the Yellow River. He also provides just enough food to keep the little ones content. I hope you enjoyed this chapter.